Are you eating well? Exercising? Yet still noticing your strength slipping, your muscle tone fading, or your energy flags creeping in? What if I told you that one simple change, swapping or adding a specific nut, could make a meaningful difference in preserving muscle, supporting metabolic health, and aging stronger? Here's what's really going on inside your body and why this matters more than you might think. As we move through our 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, our bodies begin a silent process, the gradual loss of lean muscle mass, a condition called sarcopenia. This is not just about aesthetics or toning up. Reduced muscle mass and strength impair metabolism, reduce insulin sensitivity, raise the risk of falls, fractures, chronic disease, and ultimately shorten healthy lifespan. What the research shows is that muscle is not optional. It is a cornerstone of energy, metabolism, hormonal balance, fat burning, and longevity. And yet many of us treat it like a secondary concern. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body as a lean engine car. Your muscles are the pistons. If those pistons shrink and lose power, the engine's efficiency goes down. You burn less fuel, you run hotter, you drop gears harder, and the risk of breakdowns goes up. Fix the pistons and you restore power. Ignore them and you compromise the entire engine. In the same way, focusing on muscle mass and strength is a root cause strategy, not just chasing losses or symptoms. In functional medicine terms, we must consider how insulin resistance, chronic low-grade inflammation, hormonal shifts, especially declining growth hormone, testosterone and insulin-like growth factor 1, and mitochondrial dysfunction all conspire to weaken muscle and degrade metabolic health. Addressing those drivers is far more powerful than just chasing body fat percentage or tone. Now, what does a nut have to do with this? Remarkably, recent studies show that regular consumption of nuts is associated with significantly lower odds of low muscle strength and sarcopenia in older adults. For instance, one cross-sectional study of Korean adults found that older adults who consume nuts had roughly 45% lower risk of low muscle strength compared with non-consumers, even after factoring in protein intake. What the research shows is that beyond just more protein, the nutrient matrix in nuts, healthy fats, micronutrients, antioxidants, plant-based protein, may support the very physiology of muscle preservation. In this talk, you will learn 6 science-backed insights about how one particular nut, you'll find out which one shortly, supports muscle building, prevents sarcopenia, and optimizes your metabolic engine. You will gain clarity on the physiology of muscle loss, the hormonal and metabolic levers you can engage, and exactly how to incorporate this nut into your daily life in a way that makes sense, is sustainable, and aligned with your goals of energy, longevity, fat loss, and lean muscle. So buckle in. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day for viewers committed to optimizing their health naturally. Let's dive deep into the muscle-building nut that may just replace your avocado on the plate. Here's what's really going on inside your body when muscle loss begins. Sarcopenia does not start suddenly at 70 or 80 years old. It begins quietly as early as your 30s when muscle protein synthesis begins to slow, and the signals that tell your body to build new muscle become weaker. Imagine this like a construction site that once had hundreds of workers building new muscle fibers every day. Over time, fewer workers show up, the repair process slows down, and the building starts to crumble. The primary cause is not simply a lack of exercise or protein. It begins at the cellular level inside the mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside your muscle cells. When mitochondria become less efficient, your muscle fibers produce less energy. And that energy shortfall triggers a cascade of problems: insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, and hormonal decline. Over time, muscle fibers shrink, fat begins to infiltrate the tissue, and metabolic flexibility, your body's ability to switch between burning fat and glucose, starts to collapse. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your muscles as a power grid. When you are young, every circuit is bright and fully powered. As you age, the wiring starts to fray. You still have the infrastructure, but the energy cannot flow effectively. The goal is not just to add more wiring, it is to repair the grid itself. That means supporting mitochondrial health, improving insulin sensitivity, and reducing oxidative stress. Recent research published in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia, and Muscle in 2024 highlights that the decline in muscle strength is directly tied to mitochondrial dysfunction and chronic low-grade inflammation. The study emphasized that targeting these two factors early could dramatically slow or even reverse sarcopenia progression. That means our goal is not only to eat more protein, but to eat in a way that restores those metabolic signals inside the muscle. This is where nutrition becomes medicine. When you choose foods that activate a process called muscle protein synthesis, and that simultaneously reduce inflammation, you rebuild those circuits. The body can once again communicate clearly with its muscles using hormones like insulin and IGF-1 to send the message, grow, repair, stay strong. What the research shows is that dietary fats, particularly monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, play a vital role in maintaining the integrity of muscle cell membranes and improving insulin receptor sensitivity. This is where the power of the right nut comes in. Unlike avocado, which is primarily known for its monounsaturated fats, this nut contains a unique profile of omega-3 fatty acids, plant-based protein, magnesium, and antioxidants that specifically target those root causes: inflammation, mitochondrial stress, and hormonal imbalance. When you combine that with even moderate strength training or resistance-based movement, the effects multiply. The muscle becomes more insulin sensitive, blood sugar stabilizes, and your metabolism starts to shift back toward fat burning rather than fat storage. So, before we reveal which nut it is, understand this. The battle against sarcopenia is not fought in the gym alone. It is fought at the cellular level inside your mitochondria, and it is won through smart, targeted nutrition. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day to help you strengthen your metabolism and stay younger. Now let us talk about the powerhouse itself. The nut that has shown remarkable potential in fighting muscle loss and boosting strength. The walnut. Forget the avocado for a moment. While avocados have long been celebrated for their healthy fats, walnuts bring something far more comprehensive to the table. They are not merely a source of fat, they are a symphony of nutrients working in harmony to protect your muscles at the cellular level. Here's what's really going on inside your body when you eat walnuts. Unlike most other nuts, walnuts are rich in alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. This nutrient plays a critical role in lowering inflammation, enhancing mitochondrial efficiency, and improving the sensitivity of muscle tissue to anabolic signals such as insulin and insulin-like growth factor 1. In other words, it helps your muscle cells hear the grow and repair command more clearly. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine that your muscle cells are like small factories, receiving messages from headquarters. If the communication lines are clogged by inflammation and oxidative stress, the orders never reach the workers. Walnuts clean up those lines, reducing the background noise so the factory can operate efficiently. What the research shows is that walnuts contain not just healthy fats, but also high-quality plant protein, arginine, magnesium, and polyphenols. Magnesium acts as a cofactor in over 300 enzymatic reactions, including those related to energy metabolism and muscle contraction. Arginine promotes nitric oxide production, improving blood flow to muscles, which in turn enhances nutrient delivery and recovery. A recent study published in Nutrients in 2024 found that older adults who consumed 1 to 2 servings of walnuts daily experienced improvements in muscle strength and function over 12 weeks compared with a control group. The researchers attributed these benefits to the combination of omega-3 fatty acids and polyphenolic antioxidants, which together decreased markers of inflammation and oxidative stress, two of the key drivers of sarcopenia. From a functional medicine perspective, this is powerful because it addresses multiple root causes at once. Walnuts stabilize insulin, lower inflammation, support mitochondrial repair, and provide amino acids for protein synthesis. That is a metabolic trifecta. Think of it this way: protein alone is the building material for your muscles, but without the right hormonal and metabolic environment, that material sits unused. Walnuts help create the right environment by balancing blood sugar, reducing inflammatory cytokines, and improving energy metabolism. When your metabolic state is optimized, every gram of protein you eat works harder for you. The other reason walnuts stand out is their antioxidant profile. They are particularly rich in ellagic acid and polyphenols, which protect muscle tissue from oxidative damage. As we age, oxidative stress increases and accelerates the breakdown of muscle fibers. By neutralizing free radicals, walnuts slow that process, giving your muscles the chance to repair and rebuild. So when you think of muscle-preserving nutrition, think beyond protein shakes and chicken breasts. Think of a handful of walnuts as your daily muscle insurance, a nutrient-dense tool that supports the biochemistry of growth, repair, and resilience. If this resonates with you, remember, a small daily habit compounds over time. 1 ounce of walnuts a day may sound simple, but physiologically it is a powerful message to your body. Keep building, keep repairing, keep thriving. Let us now look deeper into how walnuts directly combat inflammation and oxidative stress, two of the most silent yet destructive forces behind muscle loss and aging. Many people assume muscle breakdown happens because of inactivity or lack of protein. In truth, the real damage begins at the microscopic level, when inflammation and free radicals silently erode muscle tissue, impair mitochondrial function, and block muscle repair signals. Here is what is really happening inside your body. When your immune system stays chronically activated due to stress, poor diet, or environmental toxins, it releases inflammatory molecules known as cytokines. These cytokines interfere with muscle protein synthesis, meaning that even if you eat enough protein, your body cannot properly use it to build muscle. The result is catabolism, a slow, steady breakdown of muscle fibers. Now imagine your muscles as a rope. Each fiber is a strand, strong and flexible. Chronic inflammation is like pouring acid on that rope. It frays the fibers over time until the entire rope weakens. Walnuts contain compounds that neutralize this acid before it can do harm. What the research shows is that walnuts are one of the most antioxidant-rich foods in the human diet. They contain a wide spectrum of polyphenols, including L-glutanins and flavonoids, which directly quench free radicals and reduce oxidative damage. A 2024 review published in Frontiers in Nutrition confirmed that regular walnut consumption significantly lowered inflammatory markers such as C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, while boosting antioxidant enzyme activity in older adults. These biochemical changes create a protective shield around muscle tissue, preventing further loss and improving recovery. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of oxidative stress as rust building up on metal machinery. Over time, the rust reduces efficiency, slows performance, and causes breakdowns. Antioxidants are the oil that prevents rust from forming. Walnuts provide that oil for your muscles, keeping your internal machinery running smoothly. In addition to their antioxidants, walnuts' omega-3 fatty acids further lower inflammation by shifting the body's production of eicosanoids, hormone-like molecules derived from fatty acids, from pro-inflammatory to anti-inflammatory forms. This shift is critical because chronic inflammation not only degrades muscle, but also accelerates insulin resistance, the very mechanism that triggers fat storage and energy decline. Another recent finding published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition demonstrated that omega-3 supplementation improved muscle protein synthesis response in older adults by enhancing the activation of mTOR, the key pathway that signals muscle growth. Walnuts, being a natural plant-based source of omega-3, provide that same metabolic stimulus in food form. From a functional medicine perspective, this means walnuts act not only as nutrition, but as a form of cellular therapy. By reducing inflammatory stress and oxidative load, they restore your cell's ability to communicate and regenerate. Over time, this improves mitochondrial energy production, insulin sensitivity, and the body's overall anabolic potential, the capacity to build up rather than break down. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I share new science-based strategies every day to help you rebuild your strength, metabolism, and energy naturally. So as you can see, the value of walnuts extends far beyond their calories or macronutrient content. They are not just food, they are biochemical tools that reverse the internal processes driving muscle aging. Now, let us turn to something most people never connect with muscle loss: hormones. You see, muscle is not just built by lifting weights or eating protein, it is orchestrated by your hormones. Hormones are the internal messengers that tell your muscles when to grow, when to repair, and when to conserve energy. As we age, those signals weaken. Insulin becomes less effective, cortisol rises, testosterone and growth hormone decline, and the body slips into a catabolic state, a slow drift toward muscle breakdown. Here is what is really happening inside your body. When insulin sensitivity decreases, your muscles can no longer absorb glucose and amino acids efficiently. That means less fuel and fewer building blocks for growth. Elevated cortisol, the stress hormone, compounds this by breaking down muscle tissue to release glucose into the bloodstream. The result is a vicious cycle: higher cortisol, lower testosterone, reduced growth signals, and shrinking muscle fibers. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine a construction site again, but this time the workers are your hormones. Insulin is the delivery truck bringing in materials, testosterone is the foreman organizing the build, and cortisol is the demolition crew. When cortisol shows up too often, it tears down what the others are trying to build. To restore balance, you need to feed the right workers and quiet the demolition crew, and that is exactly what walnuts help do. What the research shows is that the polyphenols and omega-3 fatty acids in walnuts directly improve insulin sensitivity and reduce cortisol levels. A recent randomized controlled trial published in Nutrients in 2024 found that participants who consumed 30 grams of walnuts daily for 8 weeks had significant reductions in fasting insulin, improved HOMA-IR, a measure of insulin resistance, and lower cortisol output compared with those who did not consume walnuts. This suggests that walnuts help recalibrate the hormonal environment in favor of muscle preservation and growth. But it goes deeper. Walnuts contain compounds that influence the production of sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, a protein that regulates the availability of testosterone and estrogen in the body. By improving SHBG balance, walnuts ensure that testosterone remains active and accessible to muscle tissue, where it drives protein synthesis and recovery. Another critical player here is magnesium, which walnuts provide in abundance. Magnesium is essential for testosterone production and acts as a cofactor in the enzymatic reactions that convert cholesterol into steroid hormones. Studies have consistently shown that individuals with higher magnesium intake tend to have higher total and free testosterone levels, especially when combined with physical activity. From a functional medicine standpoint, this hormonal restoration is key. You are not merely feeding your muscles, you are restoring the endocrine rhythm that governs metabolism, strength, and resilience. When your hormones align, every bite of protein you eat, every workout you do becomes more effective. The communication between your brain, liver, and muscle cells becomes synchronized again. Think of walnuts, then, as a hormonal tune-up for your body. By improving insulin sensitivity, balancing cortisol, and supporting testosterone, they reset the very command center that dictates whether you build muscle or lose it. Over time, this means more strength, steadier energy, better fat metabolism, and sharper mental focus, because hormones do not work in isolation. When your muscles thrive, your entire body chemistry shifts toward vitality. So the next time you think of building muscle, do not only think of exercise or protein powders. Think of hormonal balance and how one handful of walnuts a day can create that internal stability your body has been missing. Now that you understand how walnuts influence your metabolism, inflammation, and hormones, let us talk about timing, when and how to eat them for maximum anabolic benefit. This is where nutritional science meets practicality, because what the research shows is that when you eat matters almost as much as what you eat. Here's what is really going on inside your body. Muscle protein synthesis, the process by which your body builds new muscle fibers, happens in response to nutrient signals, particularly amino acids and insulin. After meals, your body enters an anabolic window where it can efficiently shuttle nutrients into muscle cells. If you consume the right nutrients within this window, you enhance muscle repair, stabilize blood sugar, and lower cortisol. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscles as a sponge. After you exercise or wake up after a night's fast, that sponge is dry and ready to absorb nutrients. If you feed it the right combination of protein, fats, and micronutrients, it soaks them up efficiently. But if you miss that window, the sponge dries out again, and the nutrients you eat later are stored as fat instead of fueling muscle repair. This is where walnuts shine. Studies show that consuming walnuts around key metabolic windows, such as the morning meal or post-workout, optimizes their anabolic effect. Their combination of plant protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and magnesium supports insulin sensitivity, while their fats slow glucose absorption, preventing blood sugar spikes and crashes. A 2024 trial in the European Journal of Nutrition demonstrated that participants who ate walnuts with breakfast or as a post-exercise snack had higher muscle protein synthesis markers and improved nitrogen balance compared with those who consumed them at random times during the day. The reason is simple. The omega-3 fatty acids in walnuts enhance mTOR activation, the cellular switch for muscle growth, especially when paired with dietary protein. From a functional medicine perspective, this is the perfect example of synergy. When you combine walnuts with protein-rich foods like Greek yogurt, eggs, or legumes, you amplify the anabolic response. The healthy fats improve nutrient absorption, and the amino acids provide the building material. Together, they signal your body to build rather than break down muscle tissue. For those who practice intermittent fasting, walnuts can serve as an ideal opening food for breaking a fast. Their healthy fats gently awaken the digestive system, provide stable energy, and help your body transition back into an anabolic state without spiking insulin excessively. Similarly, before sleep, a small handful of walnuts can support overnight muscle repair by providing slow-releasing nutrients that sustain recovery through the night. Think of walnut timing as metabolic tuning. Morning intake helps stabilize cortisol and blood sugar for the day, post-exercise intake enhances repair, and evening intake supports recovery and hormonal balance. Each timing window offers a different advantage, and over time, those small strategic habits compound into stronger muscles and a more resilient metabolism. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day to help you understand how your body really works and how to fuel it wisely. So, whether you eat walnuts with your morning oatmeal, blend them into a smoothie after a workout, or enjoy them as an evening snack, the key is consistency and timing. You are not just eating nuts, you are feeding your metabolism the exact signals it needs to stay in growth mode every single day. Now let us bring all the science together and look at the long-term picture. Because while it is inspiring to see short-term improvements in muscle strength or energy, the real value of what you are doing lies in the decades ahead, how your choices today shape your metabolism, body composition, and longevity for years to come. Here's what is really going on inside your body when you build and protect muscle consistently. Muscle tissue is not just about strength or aesthetics. It is a metabolic organ. It determines how efficiently you burn fat, regulate blood sugar, and maintain hormonal balance. The more lean muscle mass you maintain, the lower your risk for metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and frailty in later life. Research continues to reinforce this connection. A 2024 longitudinal analysis published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging followed over 3,000 adults for 10 years. It found that individuals who consume nuts, particularly walnuts, at least 4 times per week, had significantly greater preservation of muscle mass and strength, along with lower incidence of insulin resistance and chronic inflammation. The researchers concluded that the bioactive compounds in walnuts support mitochondrial function and muscle metabolism, slowing the biological aging process. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your muscles as your body's savings account. Every time you eat nutrient-dense food and engage in movement, you make a deposit. Every period of inactivity, stress, or poor nutrition is a withdrawal. Over the years, these deposits and withdrawals determine whether you have enough metabolic savings to sustain vitality in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. Walnuts, with their omega-3 fats, antioxidants, and amino acids are one of the most efficient ways to keep that account growing. From a functional medicine perspective, long-term walnut consumption creates a ripple effect across multiple systems. The omega-3 fats improve vascular health, keeping blood flow strong to muscle tissue. The antioxidants reduce the chronic inflammatory burden that leads to aging. The magnesium and polyphenols support cognitive performance and protect neurons. Important because the brain and muscles communicate continuously through the nervous system. Another long-term advantage is metabolic resilience. When your muscles are strong, your body can handle fluctuations in energy intake, stress, or illness without losing balance. This resilience is what defines healthy aging, not just living longer, but living stronger. In fact, multiple population studies now associate regular walnut consumption with increased lifespan and decreased all-cause mortality. A 2023 meta-analysis in BMC Medicine showed that individuals who consumed a daily serving of walnuts had a 14% lower risk of premature death compared with those who rarely ate them. The authors pointed to improved lipid profiles, lower inflammation, and better insulin regulation as the main reasons. The takeaway is clear. You cannot separate muscle health from longevity. Every choice that preserves your muscle, whether it is a handful of walnuts, resistance training, or better sleep, is also a choice that preserves your life force. So, when you look at that small handful of walnuts, understand what you are truly holding. You are holding a long-term investment in your strength, energy, and independence. Day by day, that investment compounds, building not just stronger muscles, but a more youthful metabolism and a longer, healthier life. So, let us bring everything together. We began this conversation with a simple idea that a single, often overlooked nut could become one of your strongest allies against sarcopenia and age-related muscle loss. And as we have uncovered, that nut is the walnut, a small, nutrient-dense powerhouse that nourishes not just your muscles, but your entire metabolic system. Here's what is really going on inside your body when you make walnuts a consistent part of your diet. Their omega-3 fatty acids lower inflammation and protect your muscle cells from oxidative damage. Their plant-based protein and amino acids fuel muscle repair. Their magnesium and arginine enhance blood flow and hormonal balance. Their antioxidants defend your mitochondria, the power plants inside your cells, so that your muscles can keep generating energy efficiently. Over time, these mechanisms combine to restore your strength, metabolism, and resilience. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your muscles as the engine of your health. Every time you feed them well, you are changing the oil, replacing worn parts, and tuning the system. Ignore them, and the engine begins to slow down, burning less fuel, storing more fat, and losing power. But when you care for that engine through nutrition, strength training, and smart recovery, it keeps you moving powerfully through life. What the research shows is that consistent walnut consumption supports far more than muscle maintenance. It improves insulin sensitivity, balances hormones, enhances cognitive function, and lowers the risk of chronic disease. In other words, it is not a snack, it is a strategy for longevity. And that is the deeper message here. Sarcopenia is not inevitable. Aging does not have to mean weakness, fatigue, or decline. Your body is responsive. It listens to every message you send it through your nutrition, your habits, and your mindset. When you give it the right signals, foods that lower inflammation, restore hormone balance, and protect your mitochondria, it responds with strength, energy, and endurance. So, here's your challenge for the next 30 days. Add one handful of walnuts into your daily routine. Observe how your energy feels, how your recovery changes, and how your strength improves. Track it, notice it, because what you measure, you can improve. And if this video added value to your day, like it and subscribe to join a community of people optimizing their health naturally through science-based nutrition. Remember, longevity is not just about living longer, it is about living stronger. One handful of walnuts at a time can help you do exactly that.